Welcome to The Word in Hospitality, a podcast powered by Muse. My name is Ilse. I'm a project director at Muse, and I'll be your host for today. So the way that this works is every week we pick one word that kind of summarizes a key issue that we believe we can have a meaningful conversation around. And then we invite some amazing people from the industry outside and in to share kind of what that word means. So this week we are looking at the word grow. I think grow can mean very many things to very many different people. So we're going to have a discussion on what that means for you personally, what that means for you from a professional perspective. I've invited two people to have this podcast with us. Sophia, General Manager for EMEA from Revenate, and Mark, Commercial Director at Pastillian Hotels. Sophia, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yes, see if I can unmute myself. There we go. Thanks, Ilse. Very good. Yeah, so my name is Sophia Tapp. I am the General Manager of EMEA for Revenate. So I'm based in Amsterdam, where our European office is located. And I've been with Revenate for 5 years, have a background in distribution and connectivity. So having worked in the hospitality industry for the past 15 years. A little bit about Revenate, we actually focus on building very specialized technology, very easy to use technology, and just to solve some of the industry's complex challenges. And it's just very interesting times right now to be in this space, both from a technology provider perspective as well as from that of helping hoteliers do things differently and get ahead of the current challenges. Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us, Sophia. Mark, do you just quickly want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Mark Struik, Commercial Director for Pastillian Hotels in the Netherlands. Currently, we have 7 locations, all based in the Netherlands. We have a strong focus on the MICE, on the meeting and conventions industry, and almost 700 rooms at the moment in the Netherlands. And April this year, we switched from PMS system to Muse. And so we're starting up the collaboration more intensively day by day.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, and I think actually, maybe a little bit later down in the podcast, it'd be super interesting to hear from you on how you cope with the current situation, because you are so focused on MICE, which is obviously meetings and incentives, or the gathering of many people in rooms, which is really the problem today. So let's hopefully hear some more from you later on.
Sure.
I think what I would like to do is maybe just kick it off. The word grow, what it means to me personally, what it means to me professionally. I'll start, I think, with the word grow and what it has meant for Muse and how I've experienced it, and I think how hopefully we're coming out of this crisis a little bit better. So just to tell you a bit about Muse, right? So we are we were a startup and a scale up, and we found ourselves in the past 2 years in a stage of hyper growth. We hired an immense amount of people. Even as early as February 2020, so only 8 months ago, we were 420 people for our yearly conference in Prague, and it was amazing because we had hired about 200 of these people in 1 year, so a true hyper growth phase. And then out of nowhere, obviously, COVID hit, and within 6 to 8 weeks, I think we were forced to reduce our headcount by about 50%. So literally downsized to half the company. Obviously, massive shock, right? Because we saw our revenues drop and we had to make some very, very tough decisions on how do we make sure that we are not all out of a job. So in the end, we went from hypergrowth to cutting the company by 50%. And where are we today, right? How do you rebuild your company from a hypergrowth perspective to almost downscaling again, and now trying very, very slowly to build up again from, I wouldn't say from scratch, but we cut very deep, and it's really quite painful for us to get out of this. So what I think I've experienced very, very much is we grew so fast that every time that we had an issue, we just threw people at the problem, right? And hence we grew massively from about 200 to 400 people in about a year. And now being forced to downsize and not having the money to hire that many people, we've taken a completely different approach to how we handle, for example, our internal processes. We look at the manual process that we have. We see if we can automate them. So instead of just, oh, we have an issue, let's hire an entire team to fix that issue, we're actually taking a step back, looking at the process and see if we can fix it. And for me, like the best example is we decided to centralize. So that basically means we got rid of all of our local offices, all of the things that we used to do on-site meetings, on-site implementation, on-site account management. All of a sudden, we were forced to do this from home. And with the centralization, we've actually found that there's really no need for us to go back to on-site. We can actually do most of the things that we were doing before. We can do them from like we are now, just from the back of our homes. And that has made us a much more scalable company. Even if we get out of COVID today, there's really no need for us to go back to being on site. And we're so much more scalable having a small group of people targeting a much larger audience online than if we were to go to every single hotel and, for example, implement Muse. We can now do everything online through online implementations. So for me, I think just to sum it up, the grow in this part is really we downsized and now we're scaling back up. We're growing into a much more virtual online kind of world, whereby we look at ourselves first and all of our processes before we do anything else and we hire more people. So Mark, can I ask what it's been for you? Like I said, you're in the MICE industry, meetings and events. Yeah. You guys have been hit specifically hard. I also realized that your hotels were closed for a while, and I think they're closed today.
Yeah,
so maybe
true.
Give us some insights into how you're dealing with that.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit similar to Muse is that we founded the company in 2010. And current management, of which I'm part, started in 2015. And we changed a little bit the strategy of the group. And since 2015, we grew on a natural base, but also by expansion. So we added a couple of hotels, but we found our market where we want to target, and we grew naturally from there as well. And like every company, you get these growing pains coming up. And in our case, it was not just adding a bunch of people, but it was throwing more activities to the people we already have. So that was kind of hard. And we were looking in 2022 really our top year so far to come. If you look at what was on the books already and which events were coming up, and then we were obviously hit by COVID very hard as well. So during the first lockdown, we started to look at the future, and we decided to we had to lay off 1/3 of the company as well, because the forecast was not that good, and the foresight also for the rest of the year was not that good. But at the same time, it gave us the opportunity to restructure a part of the organization was built, and make it more adaptable to the organization we are today and we want to be in 5 years from now. So as a matter of fact, we even decentralized a part of our business. And we were able to do so because last, I would say 1.5 years, we were really looking into make our processes more lean. And starting to work with Muse is one of those elements which are part of the project. So what we did decentralize was, for instance, the reservations department. And we brought them back to the hotels. And with Muse and also due to some other technology, we are able to process reservations much faster than we used to be. So we can do it with less people on premises instead of having a heavy overhead in a central office. So yeah, that's basically it gives us a good opportunity as well. So never waste a good crisis is one of those common phrases you see here.
Definitely.
But of course, in the meantime, it is very hard. You know, the hotels are closed again now since 2 weeks, because the second wave of COVID hit the Netherlands. And that's not the reason why I went into hospitality. So if I walk into a hotel these days, it's empty. There is some staff available, no guests at all. it's not a happy feeling you get in the hotels at the moment. And it used to be very nice places with good how do you call it, with good environment, good people around you, and now it's quiet and cold and not so much fun to be there.
Hey, and
So
Mark, and I think you've also, for example, I'm just thinking about, you know, the fact that you've now started working with Muse, but I think you've also told me before that you guys have like a chatbot, right? So
yeah,
when you talk about reducing costs and you've decentralized all of your folks back into the hotels, you clearly looked at costs and realized that having a bot may be the better option on having people. Maybe share a bit more on how you did that.
yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I have to correct you a little bit, because it's definitely not a chatbot. It is a bot, but the chatbot is really, you know, he's not too happy to hear about it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So what we saw is, especially in the meeting and events industry, you know, we get tens of thousands of email per month with new requests for meetings, with changes, with cancellations, with confirmations. So there's a lot of emailing going on, and especially closer to the execution date of our event. The amount of emails is increasing with changing small details. And it takes quite some time, you know, for our employees to process all that information and type literally the information from one screen from an email into a reservation system. And then create a proposal and put it back into the email screen and send it back to the client. So what we did is we did a design sprint, and with that we came up with the idea to automate a part of the process with a bot that can read and understand email and extract the most relevant information from an email to create a booking, draw up a proposal, and send it back to the client. So that process, at least for the smaller meeting, what we call the ABC meetings, you know, up to 50 people, one meeting room, for example, is now fully automated by this bot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, but that also helped us to a few things. First of all, to obviously reduce the effort done by staff. So that makes us more scalable, but it also increases the speed of response, because basically if you send an email to us, this system can respond within real time. We build in a manual delay, because otherwise our customers didn't believe that we took care of their request in a good way. But it can basically be done in real time. So if you send an email, then within literally 10 seconds you receive an email back with your proposal.
Yeah, but it's awesome, not only from like speed, but also reducing manual labor and reducing errors, right? Even though there may be a manual check that still needs to be done, but it's a great example on how you can actually be much more scalable, reduce your overhead, right? And customers are better off on the other side.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, reducing errors as well, because good AI bots are sometimes better in understanding emails than humans are.
Mm-hmm. I shall not refer to him or her as a chatbot anymore. I
No,
stand corrected.
thank you. His name is Michiel, so otherwise we have to tell Michiel that you didn't mean that way.
Exactly. So how about for Revenate? Did you, for example, change anything in your strategy, or how did Revenate react to this? How, I guess the question is really in terms of grow, what did you learn from it, and did you actually manage to have an opportunity to grow something within Revenate?
Yeah, I think quite a couple of things, you know, happened, and you know, I suppose like if I can summarize it, I can extract a couple of just key behaviors, right? And that we've experienced, and they were really truly key to get sort of over the hump. And agility just has been one of them, right? The ability for us to pivot, you know, strategies to adapt very quickly, get away from a lot of internal approval processes that would otherwise slow us down, right? So there's been a lot of freedom for us to try things out, lots of trial and error. So, you know, people coming up with creative ideas, you know, I think that has been quite critical. So not only the response time in which you change strategies, but also in just getting creative, getting scrappy. You know, at the end of the day, it was, you know, almost like a monthly playbook, right? As the market dynamics changed, so we had to also adapt pretty much every month to you know, our business strategy. And I think I've also seen that you know, amongst our customer base, right? Hoteliers have also done that. All companies had to rethink their growth strategies, right? You know, for us, it's also, well, right now, who are the right customers for us to focus on right now, who truly needed our solution. And it's been quite of an extreme focus in, you know, all across the organization in different departments and different initiatives. And we've also seen that with hoteliers, right? And you know, Mark's a good example as well, just focusing from, you know, corporate into more leisure, and many hotels had to do that. So, and you know, on the topic of being extremely focused, another example is on our product development, right? We couldn't just, you know, as you said earlier, throw a lot of people and start hiring. This is unfortunately not an option, right? Not the right time. So we've decided to have, like, you know, pretty much like an extreme focus on our number one priority right now on our product development, which is our profile synthesis, or the, you know, ability to match and merge profiles with a lot of artificial intelligence behind it. So that has been our development team's number one priority right now. And we moved away from building a million little features that would, you know, not necessarily fix everyone's needs, right, or everyone's challenges. It was just not the right thing to do right now. I think we made the right decisions. And again, you know, we've seen hoteliers do the right thing. We've seen a lot of hoteliers also taking this time to implement new systems, you know, to be ready post-COVID, and we've done the exact same thing. So we also use this downtime to fix a lot of internal tracking issues, you know, our systems of record, our billing, and our own CRM, so to say, to clean up a lot of the clutter. So on one side, we had a lot of employees actually doing obviously a lot more work because we had less resources at the end of the day. But at the same time, I feel, you know, we also created work that we felt it was just the right time to use for that, right? So and so I think right, it was, you know, something that, you know, some other things that have always been on our sort of list of things to do or to fix, well, we just kind of took action right away. And I think we also learned a couple of things, you know, thing over two about people and their capacity and ability to adapt. So with this need of, you know, being very agile and shifting focus almost on the go that, you know, we were just talking about, the need to have people in our teams who could adapt quickly and easily, you know, to that changing approach, that was something that became very obvious. So I'm also quite curious to see, you know, in terms of hiring in the future, how I suppose, you know, we're not the only ones who realize that. So I'm curious to see how, you know, the sort of hiring process in the future goes. You know, will we start looking a lot, you know, will we continue to look at, let's say, a lot of past experiences or titles, or maybe move into something more that's more of a skill-based hiring? I'm sure someone from HR could describe this better than I can. But yeah, that's something that I think we've also learned and we've also experienced. You know, no company had kind of like a pandemic playbook ready to go. The next day we all went into lockdown. So I think everyone reacted differently and adapted differently.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying about, you know, reshifting your focus and also looking at the people that you target. For example, like we've done the same, right? When we like we had to have less support people. So how do you cope? At a certain point, all of the hotels opened up, so we served our same customer base, but with half less people. So that's a real challenge, right? So we also looked at which hotels are giving us the most volume of tickets. How do we solve this? And maybe this should actually, going forward, we should maybe change our strategy into which client base we sell into. Where previously, you know, we would basically target anybody that would put their signature under it. So it's maybe a bit over exaggerated, right? But what we obviously do now is we don't focus anymore on these smaller hotels, but we focus on, for example, Mark and Pastillian, right? It's a chain that has a little bit of meat on the bones, but also the mindset of wanting to change and adopting technology and understanding, for example, how Michiel works, right? And the need for, we have automated check-in and auto checkout, online check-in, online checkout, etc. Not every hotelier is ready for that. So we also changed our focus to target those hoteliers, those chains that actually have that mindset, that can adopt and that actually use the features that not only the market requests, but are also makes the hotels and the change way more scalable. So to us, it was an eye opener, right? Not just to focus on anybody, all boutique hotels, hostels, chains, small independents, but really have a laser focus on chains. And funnily enough, the one thing that surprised us is we thought maybe no more independents would ever come to us, but they did. So we're actually getting a few people back now from furloughs to make sure we can also handle that. But we do find that the biggest markets for us is also changed, just like with you, Mark.
Yeah, but what we see, obviously, to be agile in these times is very important as a company. So, like I said, we're really focused on usually the B2B market for meetings and events industry. Well, basically, the only market generating revenue at this moment is the leisure market. Which was mainly outsourced in our case. So we had to make some quick adaptations in our strategy to target that market more ourselves and to have more output on that market. And on the same time, you know, my team decreased as well. So I have few people but the output cannot be lower than it used to be before. And that in combination with a change in strategy, it really makes you think on how you handle things and how you create efficiency within your teams to make sure that you get fast and quick returns, and not only for the long term, but especially in this case, also for the short term, very important.
Definitely. And if you look at how you've personally experienced this, Mark, I can imagine, like for us, right? We're a cloud-based company. We're an IT company. We were already fairly used to working from home or being flexible. The change was really in going central and not decentralized. But in essence, we all work from home. We all feel, yes, I miss the social part immensely and I miss the traveling, but my productivity has either stayed the same or it's gone up. Where I can imagine for you, you're a hotelier, it's probably not that easy for you guys to work from home. How do you deal with that?
Well, it depends. It depends a little bit on who you ask. So if I look at my team on the commercial side, for us it's not such a different. We had people already working from home from time to time. Of course, we had more culture to be on premises because that's where our guests are. So that's in our DNA. I mean, and as soon as possible, we want to bounce back to that. But if I look for revenue or for sales or for marketing, for instance, you know, as long as they have connectivity, a laptop and a telephone, you know, they'll be able to do their job, even if they sit on the moon, you know, I don't care, as long as they perform and deliver their output. So that's a good thing. But for the whole company and the culture of the company, that's very hard, because you see a lot of people now not knowing what to do with their time, since we don't have any guests anymore. So that is really strange. And I'm very happy that last year, at the end of 2019, we changed our IT landscape to a fully cloud environment. So we were actually ready to adapt very quickly to this. What we've learned.
And for you personally, also, do you feel that because you still go to see the hotels, right?
What we do as board of directors is we drive to the hotels every day to make sure that we support our staff on premises and that they're not facing this alone. And that's one thing we learned as a company, that communication obviously is always important towards your staff. But there's a lot of uncertainty and there is no perspective. So what we do is we are very open in communication. and we do that in different ways. So driving to the hotels every day is one of them. The other one is every week during closure, and if we're open every 2 weeks, on Friday we have a YouTube live where our CEO is addressing the company, giving them an update on what's going on every aspect, including financial situation of the company, how
Nice.
we're
Yeah, we do
facing
the
it.
same. Yeah.
And we have this app for our employee. And we use it quite a lot, to give them updates. So yesterday evening, for instance, there was a press conference. So straight after the press conference, we had this discussion with the board of directors. Okay, what are the scenarios? And directly after that, we post a short movie of our CEO on this app to watch our employees and say, okay, this is what we heard, and this is what possible implications are.
Well, I love it how interactive you guys are, and how well you in these uncertain times that you communicate open, quickly, directly. This is really great.
Yeah, so that really helps. And when we talk to our staff, and that's what we see in our researches as well, is that they really appreciate the openness and the amount of communication we do these days. And that's one there to stay also after COVID.
Right. And Sophia, how about for you? Because I know you have an office in Amsterdam. It was a fairly new office, and then obviously COVID hit and you had to close that office, or at least, not let people work there. How are you coping with this today?
Yeah, that's been interesting. I think we were all very excited to move to a new office, bigger office, a very, very special building. And we were, I think, was it 6 weeks in, and we had to get everyone working from home. And I think, what the interesting part is that at the beginning of the year, it wasn't all that clear, right? It was debatable whether still people could go to the office or not. But right now it's a bit of mandate, right? So
it's a hard no, right?
Yeah. Right. So right now that with everyone being actually forced to stay home and work from home, at least for companies like ours, we've had a lot of talks internally with our executive team and our HR team on how do we support employees' mental health, right? So we're throughout the year given some employees the ability to work remotely, and obviously that meaning from another country, and just to be either in a sort of sunnier country or just closer to their families, right, to where their families live. So we have employees working a bit from all over, as long as Mark said, as long as they can do their job and results are there, and obviously not crazy time zones. That as long as it works, and again, it depends on the team you work for, right, or the department you work for. So I think that resulted in a lot of individuals just being happier, and grateful in a time when our mental health is being truly challenged, right? Especially for those who live by themselves, and or in countries that have been on a longer term lockdown. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think the other thing that we've seen, obviously communication and transparency, as you both mentioned, has been quite critical, almost to the point where, sometimes it just, for all of us, it felt like over communicating, but it was just the right thing. It was very appreciated, transparency on the state of business, on our plans, on scenarios. And I think that kept employees very engaged and willing to help. And it kind of enhanced one of our company values is one tribe. So we feel that was a sentiment that was definitely enhanced during this period, similar to what we've seen across the world, right, of people looking after each other. So we also experienced that, everyone jumping to help across departments. I think it made the team stronger. So yeah, it's been quite interesting to stay connected during this time.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the overall thing for most companies, the whole working from home thing, where it may still be an issue a little bit, right? And people weren't fully on board. Now we have no choice, and I'm not sure if you would agree with me, but like I said, our productivity as a team or as a company, it has either stayed the same or it has increased, but it certainly hasn't decreased. And I think I'm actually a great example. I'm speaking to you today from Greece. So I took a holiday here, and after 9 days, I heard about the lockdown in Holland, and I thought, it's probably better to stay here where it's still yellow, right? And there really is no COVID still out in the streets. So it's sunny, it's warm. I have a few friends that are also working from here, and man, I am super productive because I'm the whole day by myself, but I work super hard, and actually it makes me happier, right? It makes me happier to be able to go out at night for a drink, and it's still sunny, and spend the weekend here. So this, to me, it's here to stay, right? Even post COVID, I would love to go back to the office, and I think we all probably really miss the social aspect of it. At least I do immensely. But hey, if people do have to work from another country or from another space, then we also understand that we can, and we don't have to question it anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's interesting, also, because we've also, always kind of had quite a, office culture, right? Of being at the office, for everyone to be at the office. We haven't historically, we haven't really hired people as remote-based employees, right? So I think, on one side, we would love to just all go back and be at the office and promote that, being all together there. It actually promotes a really healthy culture, right? And bond. But yeah, at the same time, we haven't made a decision on what that will look like post-COVID. I think it's just too early. I don't think it's needed to make a decision right now. But I think it will be different.
I think actually the hiring somebody remotely, it was a hard no for us for a while, right? Because it created all kinds of, I guess, discrepancies, and just it's much easier if they're here. It's just better. It just works better. And now I think that's an invalid argument. So I'm not saying we all have to go back to remotely and hire people from all over the world, right? But I think that we have to revise maybe that specific sentence and see if we find the right candidate with the right skills, then that's not necessarily a no, just because they're not in the office.
No, but still, also looking from our perspective, and I think that goes basically from most companies, and is that when working remotely or fully remotely, you in the end you do miss a certain feeling with the company and its culture and its DNA. And in the end, a company's culture and DNA still defines quite a lot on the success of the company. And it's common phrase that culture eats strategy for breakfast, for instance. And I think that having that remotely is very difficult. So working from remote areas will become more common in the end. But I don't believe it's the full future that people only work remotely. So
no, I think there's probably happy hybrids that we will find at a certain point between the two. Yeah,
definitely.
I think we're almost half an hour in. Sophia, do you have any silver linings that you want to share with us for 2020 or even 2021? Because we're almost in November, so that's creeping up on us.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably things that we've heard from many people, right? But definitely tested our resilience and our flexibility, and just I think it's been nice to kind of have a bit of a personal learning, not to take things for granted. And I think what's been quite nice is actually that to be forced to slow down pace and the pace of life. Like, of course, we've all been extremely busy on the business front, but just being forced to stay at home and not be out and about all the time. And I think as much as I miss all the traveling, and I think we need the traveling, or we want the traveling, and especially in our industry, right? It's been it's just been kind of nice to also slow down a little bit. And I think more of a personal conclusion, I think there is a way to travel safely now, right? So it's I don't think we had that in the second quarter of this year. We didn't know a lot of the things we know right now, right? So I think as much as we all hate this new normal word and expression, I think it's something that we just need to learn how to live in this new normality. I don't think which is abnormal, right? But I don't think anyone's willing to sort of hit the snooze button on their lives, right, until the pandemic's over. So I think we can go back to a lot of activities as long as we act responsibly, and as long as obviously the country situations permit that. But I just hope to see some responsible behavior that we can go back to our lives and including travel in some capacity. I think that there is a way to do that safely.
Yeah, and I think also for us, we all used to meet at ITB and World Travel Markets and all of these fairs. I don't think that will ever disappear. It's also part of our culture, actually. As you say, Mark, right? It's inherent to who we are. We're all hospitality people. We like to meet people. It's what we do. So, COVID or no COVID, I'm sure this will definitely come back a little bit later on. Mark, any final thoughts for you?
Yeah, well, there's always one I think we forget in this time is, the personal development we go through is tremendous. To learn to work in a crisis like this and to make decisions and to adapt strategies on a very rapidly pace, because things are changing almost from day to day. So it's like a day trading at the moment. Is very interesting, and of course it's hard at the moment. Making less revenue and seeing less perspective maybe than in the past. But to learn for yourself to deal in situations like this and to make decisions based on limited information sometimes you have is very interesting as well. And hopefully in I don't know, 2 or maybe 20 years, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
We look back on this and we all will remember where we were and what we did during this period and the things we learned from it. And I think as entrepreneurs, we as long as we stay ahead of the curve, I think we will survive in the end. So
thank you. I think those are wise words to conclude our podcast with. So thanks, Sophia. Thanks, Mark. Thanks so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you soon.